All right, Chair, we are live.
Good. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting, October 22nd, 2020. It's 4 o'clock. We'll start the meeting. Elizabeth, what's the first thing on the agenda since I don't have mine in front of me?
Roll call, sir.
Would you please call the roll?
Jack Hyatt,
Here.
Brian Lewis,
Here.
Ike Pino,
Here.
Kim Shanahan,
Here.
Marshall Thompson,
Here.
Monica Alt. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth. What's next?
Approval of agenda.
Are there any changes from staff?
There's no changes for me.
Any changes suggested by the committee members? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve the agenda as proposed?
So moved.
By Marshall, can we have a second?
Second.
I think that was Brian. Thank you. If you call the roll, please.
Brian Lewis,
Yes.
Ike Pino.
Here.
You're voting yes or no, Ike?
I can. Oh, yes.
Kim Shanahan,
I vote yes, and the motion was made by Ike and seconded by Marshall, so the
Yes.
chair got it a little wrong.
yes, sir, that's how I have it. Thank you, though.
Bummer.
I have it correct. Marshall Thompson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Kim, were you commenting on my age and my inability to hear? Is that the problem? Okay.
Huh? What?
Nothing. I'm just insulting you. All right. What's next on the agenda, please?
Approval of August 27th, 2019 meeting minutes.
I haven't reviewed them yet. I've had a few things going on, but we'll get back to that. Can we postpone that for the time being? I don't know that we need it. Do we, if it was on the agenda, we probably need a motion to postpone. One of you make that, please.
So moved, Kim.
Second, Ike.
Second, Ike, poll the group, please.
Brian Lewis,
Yes.
Ike Pino,
Yes.
Kim Shanahan,
Yes.
Marshall Thompson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. What's next?
Mr. Chair, the next two items are the October 19, 2020 minutes and the October 20, 2020 minutes.
I don't think I've even seen those. Did you send them out, Carlos, already?
I did send out the October 19th minutes, but we could postpone those as well.
Yeah, folks, I haven't had a chance to look at them, and I'd like us to postpone. Kim,
So moved.
Marshall,
Second.
would you poll them, please?
Yes. Brian Lewis,
Yes.
Ike Pino,
Yes.
Kim Shanahan,
Yes.
Marshall Thompson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Next,
Action items. Item A, consideration of a proposed resolution to approve and adopt the impact fee capital improvement plan and land use assumptions update 2021-2027.
all right. First of all, Carlos, did you hear from Monica? Are we anticipating she'll be with us or no?
I have not heard from Monica, no.
All right, I think we should assume that she's not going to be with us, and we'll forage ahead. Carlos, how do you want to proceed?
So I would move for approval and seek a second so we can begin to discuss.
All right, you moved.
Second.
Marshall seconded. All right, now we're on the floor for discussion. So Carlos, what's up?
Well, Chair and members of the committee, so Clancy and I worked yesterday on a draft IFCIP. I sent that out to the committee. Not a lot of changes. Clancy and I have kind of been making constant small tweaks here and there. So all of the numbers have changed a little bit, but I don't think in any real noticeable or recognizable way. We still have, high part fees, high fire fees, and kind of similar calculations to where we were at before. One thing that did change was in the land use assumptions. I did change how some of the reductions were happening. I think the CIAC was a little bit concerned at how quickly that reduction was kind of going down. So we padded some of those numbers out. That mainly just changed the expectations for revenue, but we also did change some of the existing units. And so again, some small numbers have kind of changed, but more or less the IFCIP that we're presenting today is close to the IFCIP we sent out last week and the IFCIP that we talked about on Tuesday.
All right, I have a question. The comments about the assumptions that you made changes to, are those in direct response to the Kim questions?
Member Shanahan did have some, or I thought there was multiple CIAC members that were a little bit, that thought that we might have a little bit more robust permitting growth than I was kind of expecting over the next 7 years. And so in response to those questions, I did add a little bit more permitting growth there.
Using that chart that, I'm sorry, using that chart that you used on Tuesday, what chart, let me see, can you bring up that chart, please?
I can.
So Jack, just
Yes, sir.
just kind of cut to it. Basically, the projected population growth that we see is about a little over 1%. And Carlos has changed the dwelling unit presumption to also match that to be about 1% relative. The only thing that I would note is that he's still projecting much more multifamily than single family detached, which contradicts the development patterns, except for the last 3 years. Over the last 20 years, we've certainly built much more single family detached than multifamily. That's flipped in the last 3 years. And he continues to show multifamily leading on the development of dwelling units over the next 7 years. So that was one of the things that jumped off for me.
So in order to get to the core issue here, Kim, are his numbers an improvement in terms of your point of view that you were trying to make on Tuesday?
Yes, they are.
And are they far enough that we can move on from this, or do you still have heartburn?
No, I don't. I personally think that we're going to see more of a balance between single family detached and multifamily. But who knows? It's hard to argue that the trends that we've been on for the last 3 years are going to dissipate anytime soon. And so we'll see how it shakes out.
All right.
And I
go
will
ahead.
just note real quick that I used the same notes of what we've actually seen the last 6 or 7 years as a way of kind of balancing the last 3 years. But Member Shanahan, you're absolutely correct that the last 3 years have pumped a lot of multifamily in. So we're not sure if we'll see, more multifamily than we have in the past, but this is kind of extending the last 6-7 years out to the next 7 years.
All right.
Chair, I'm satisfied with these numbers. Honestly,
Okay.
I think that's been an improvement. I still think the growth rate may be a little low, but it's hard to argue that based on the stats that we've looked at in the past 7 years.
Okay. I have, first of all, I can't see the extension of that chart on the right, Carlos, because I'm looking at people's faces. Can you move it over a little bit so I can, that one? Okay, I've got it. I have 4 or 5 questions that came to mind, and they don't come in any particular order except the way I was reading the whole draft. I'm happy to raise my questions and then turn to committee members if that's all right, or if you want to go through page by page, I can't stay for the whole meeting. If you don't mind, I'll just ask my questions. We'll see how this flies. On page 13, and I don't know how to bring this up, Carl, so you're going to bring it up when I say page 13, you're going to bring page 13 up?
I could do that.
All right. Well, you're not very fast.
Give him a break. He's been working his ass off.
A lot of tables.
Yeah, look how bleary his eyes are. All right.
Is
it's
it page 13 on the
the map. The map.
Page 15.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
So we talk about including the MRC in this. The MRC doesn't appear on this particular map. It appears later on page 32 and figure 34. But is there any reason that we shouldn't put it on this map as well?
this map is the functional roads classification map.
Oh,
And
so it
so
doesn't
it's
have it? Oh,
only, right.
okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Table 24, page 29, please. Page 29. And all I'm doing is trying to impress you that I've really read these.
Table 29.
All right.
Okay.
So this is where I started to wonder about the red. I couldn't understand what the red was. I read later on in the appendices that it's means that these are the red numbers are imports from other tables. Is that accurate? Is that what that means throughout the whole draft? In other words, what's the significance of the red numbers in the chart, in the table?
I'll let Clancy answer that. Clancy, you are muted right now, by the way. I see you talking. Don't hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. That's the so the red numbers are the inputs into usually the next table, but into some other calculations. So that's kind of the bottom line number of that table is the one that we carry forward and use in the fee calculations.
So what am I supposed to figure in 11,400? Is that moving forward to a final calculation that you're working on? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay. All right. I had the same question on another one. I'll skip. Can you go to page 30, please? I had a question about the MRC there. Oh, I know what the question was. Page 30.
Page
30.
Carlos, it looks like you're on the October 17th versus the October 22nd version.
Okay. 1 second.
Yeah. Well, Jack's using that one too. So
I was using the one that came, I think, this morning, but I don't know that. It's okay. It should be. I would think this is a question that'll be generic to both of them or common to both of them.
yeah, a lot of the table numbers changed.
Oh, did they? Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right. Is this 30? Okay. So the language, okay. You see in the last paragraph that starts the city's municipal recreation complex, on line 3, it says they are open to unincorporated county residents. Well, they're open to everybody. They're not
Right.
just county residents. Is that, am I misreading that?
No, that's true for all, probably, I guess all your public parks or.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if that's misleading because it sounds like it's only open to county and city folk. I don't know. Doesn't make any difference to me. I just wanted to raise it and tell you that it caught my eye. And if it caught my eye, it might catch a counselor's eye. Okay, that's all I have right now. Let me open it up to other committee members.
Jack, it's Ike.
Is that you, Ike?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On the MRC, do you know if the debt on those bonds have been paid out there?
It has not. I'm sure it's been paid down probably, but it has not been paid.
Okay. I seem to recall that there were some covenants in that the proceeds could only be used for the MRC period. Remember there was a big hassle with that in the water company and Karen Heldmeyer a few years ago?
That I don't know anything about. Carlos, I would be surprised, but maybe you do. Do you have any knowledge
This
about
was a
that?
long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't think Noah, I'm sorry, Clancy, maybe you know. I don't think you would. I mean, it's not common knowledge, probably, the MRC.
Oh, I don't know the answer.
All right. Noah?
It's the only reason I bring it up is that if the covenant is still in play, then we have to recognize that in our numbers, because we can't assume that we'll have revenues that we don't have. We have to do the debt service first.
Is there a line or a conclusion in here that makes that point, Ike? I'm not sure where we're going to put that. Well, let's do it this way. Carlos, would you please check and see if the debt service of that needs to be recognized in the report?
We did
Sure.
include
Yeah.
it in the debt credit for part.
Yeah, the 11 million.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
so all of that stuff, so all of the debt credits should be included in different areas of the plans. So Clancy, that's if we were notified about, debt on MRC, that's already included within the calculations, correct?
Yeah, it's all in the one
Right.
of the appendices.
Right.
All the debt,
Okay. Ike, I think that addressed your question, but if I didn't, let me know.
Mr. Chair, this is Kim. I've got three areas of inquiry.
All right, the chair recognizes the gentleman from El Dorado.
County residents are eligible for the CIAC. Just want to point that out. So it's a question for Clancy. Clancy, it relates to the functional dwelling unit calculations. And I'm curious whether or not high tourism towns like Santa Fe impact those functional dwelling unit assumptions, and also whether or not COVID has altered those functional dwelling unit assumptions. For instance, as we analyze how much time we spend in our homes, the assumption for education was 0.4 hours. And obviously that's changed dramatically, and so is our work habits, and very well may impact as we go out of COVID and we see a changing working landscape where people continue to work from home and maybe even start doing more homeschooling. So I'm just wondering, has there been any commentary in your industry about both tourist towns like ours and also the impacts of COVID on how we dwell in our units?
Yeah, I don't know quite how to address the tourist town aspect. I mean, a lot of our work is in Florida. I mean, there's certainly a lot of tourist activity there. And it's, it's just never really been an issue. I mean, yes, tourists do use parks, and some communities address that by charging park fees, or at least maybe regional park fees for hotels and motels, to lodging.
Yeah, it's more of a broader conceptual question. I didn't think there would necessarily be a specific answer, so that's fine. We do know that the tourists impact more than our parks, our roads, and then potentially also police and fire as well. But we can move on to the other area. So in the appendixes, we also saw breakdowns of 2004, 2008, and 2012 IFCIP kinds of projects, but we didn't see 2016. And the reason I asked that is because in 2004, 2008, and 2012, and it doesn't really affect us in CIAC particularly, but I did notice that there were also line items for affordable housing in 2004, 8, and 12, and it increased. It was 500,000 in 4, 500,000 in 8, and 800,000 in 2012. But because we didn't see 2016, I don't know whether or not affordable housing actually got a chunk of that bond money in that 2016 cycle.
Well, no, it would be, I mean, let's see, we go to the outstanding debt summary, page 74, or table 74. You know, your most recent bonds have all been GRT, well, GO, this has been GO bonds. And they've all gone for parks. So 2016, what was 2016? Oh, that was MRC, so that's parks also. The B was refunding 2008. So
I'm looking at table 77, Clancy, and it's the 2004A gross receipts tax bond projects.
right.
And in that table, we have the amounts, and then we have those that are eligible.
Right.
And I think that I understand the eligible, meaning that they could be eligible for impact fee
Right.
searches. So we'll see that, and when we go down to the very bottom of 2004, we see that there's a category called affordable housing, and it's NA, meaning that doesn't come out of impact fees, but it assumed that $500,000 would be appropriated from affordable housing. Table 78 is the 2008 version of that. 79 is the 2012, and then there is no table 80, which would have presumably been the 2016 gross receipts tax bonds projects. And I'm just curious of why we did not capture what presumably happened, which was that we had a 2016 version of that eligible projects and amounts and so on.
Right.
Carlos, do you know why we don't have 2016?
I know that we worked with finance. We try to work with finance very diligently to get all the bond information. I believe, and I think Clancy, you were saying this as well, but I believe that the 2016 data that we got was ineligible for impact fees and thus didn't come into the calculation.
No.
Is that right?
Like I just said, there's two 2016 GO bonds or GRT bonds. One was a refund of a 2008. So the projects are reflected in the 2008 breakdown. And the other was a refund of the MRC, and that was all, that was all MRC. That was a 2005 bond, but we don't provide a breakdown because it was all for parks.
I don't believe my question's being answered, honestly.
Well,
There clearly would have been a 2016 version of this if they happen every 4 years, and it would have had projects itemized, some of which would have been eligible for impact fees to help. But the reason I'm focusing on this, Clancy, is because I'm curious to see whether the 2016 version would have isolated some money for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and whether or not we presume that also will be the case in the 2020 version or 2021, whenever we vote on these next group of GRT bond projects. And so this is stepping away from CIAC just a little bit, but it's really trying to see what we might have done for affordable housing in 2016 and what we might be doing for affordable housing in 2020.
can I just ask you, Kim, why it's relevant if it doesn't have anything to do with CIAC money?
Because it's the IFCIP that we have on our motion to approve.
Because they appear on the other tables?
We are being asked to approve an IFCIP, which is essentially not just things that are eligible for CIAC, but for the all capital improvement projects in toto.
Okay, so you think that there's a missing table?
I believe there's a missing table, and I also don't see what we believe will be financed by the next round of GRT bonds that we're going to ask the council to approve. We don't have either one of them. We don't have the 16 or those. We have projects that we know are that have been put forward to us as eligible projects, but clearly these tables show that these bond projects finance many more things that are not what we call eligible projects. But we're being asked, I believe, to make a recommendation on things like that. And it seems curious to me that we're missing one for 2016.
They've been doing that for years, Kim.
Clancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the only bond projects we're really bringing in that are applicable for the IFCIP calculations are those that have IFCIP related expenditures or impact fee related, impact fee eligible expenditures. And so, bonds, when we've asked for grants and bonds, we are excluding projects that aren't related to impact fee, capital improvements, things like that. And so, if there was a 2016 bond that we didn't identify any projects on, it probably wouldn't have been included here unless there's something like this, which we're saying just this element was what was applicable.
Well, why were these included in our packet? Why was the 2004, 8, and 12 even included in our packet for review or to look at then, if it's irrelevant to what we do?
Well, for these, the 2004, 2008, and 2012, it's talking about the specific portions that are not eligible and the specific portions that are. So, Clancy, I believe that these tables could be shrunken down to just include, for roads, Paseo de Peralta, Airport Road, and just get rid of all the other non-eligible expenses. I think that's, Clancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's what we kind of did over with this, is that we kind of shrunk down and just included the impact fee eligible portions. Is that correct?
Well, you could do that, but the cat's out of the bag. You already showed it to me, and it makes me very curious about why 2016 would not have been also included in this packet, and why we wouldn't necessarily see 2020's version of that, because it may not be germane to what we vote on the CIAC on a case-by-case basis, but it certainly is very interesting information.
My understanding was this was all the outstanding debt.
No, what it's showing us is what was asked for on each round of the GRT bonds. 22 million total reflects what was probably asked for in that bond cycle.
Well, I got to ask again, Kim, even if it was in there and it piqued your interest, isn't it just your interest? I mean, I don't understand why the CIAC committee should care about that, other than that we're all good citizens and we want to know what's in our bonds. And I don't know that we make recommendations on the bonds anyhow, do we? I think we just make recommendations on this report, and that isn't necessarily a recommendation on what bonds should be issued or how they should be paid out. It's just kind of a narrow point of view for the CIAC money, I think. And if Clancy and Carlos wanted to remove those others that don't have any impact, I don't understand why we should make them keep it in. I mean, I'm not sure what you're really digging at, Kim.
I'm digging at the reality that in the past, our GRT bonds for capital improvement projects has included a line item for affordable housing. Yes. And I would like to make sure that that actually happens again in the 2020 version, and that we are able to take some of what is going to be voted on, if indeed it is going to be voted on by the council, to use GRT for these sorts of things, that affordable housing be included in that as it has been in the past.
All right, so let me focus on 2020 as opposed to 2016. Would you feel that we are more accurate in our reporting if we included in 2020 an amount for affordable housing, even though it may not have CIAC money?
Yes, that's exactly right.
All right. And so do you have an amount in mind, or do you want Clancy to tell us what the amount is? Or Carlos,
So-
are you objecting? I can see your lips starting to move.
Yeah, again, I kind of want to defer to Clancy on this, but I believe this is entirely outside of the IFCIP scope. If the CIAC wants to make a recommendation on affordable housing for a GRT bond, I don't know if there's anything that prohibits that. But as far as the IFCIP, the IFCIP is, in my understanding, pretty much just around the calculation of impact fees. And so there have very much been projects that are coming in, bond projects that because there is an impact, it seemed to me like we are excluding considering those because they don't have an impact on the calculation of impact fees and the organization of eligible projects for, again, impact fees. Now, we probably could address affordable housing as the reductions in impact fees, but I don't really see that fitting into the IFCIP process. But again, I think I'd defer to Clancy on what he thinks kind of the scope is.
Well, yeah, the 2020 bond, I don't know, has it been approved, but regardless, that money hasn't even been spent yet. So, we give a credit for outstanding debt for existing facilities. We don't want to count the facility and then it's not paid for, so everybody in the future is going to be paying for it. So that's why we are concerned about taking that, how much outstanding debt there is for existing facilities into account. But, there may be some, certainly, whether impact fees should be used, in conjunction with bond issues, could be partially repaid with impact fees. That's certainly a possibility if they're building an eligible project. But other than that,
I don't know about that. Bond covenants rarely allow anything other than what was specifically called for in the election. We've been burnt before. I don't know why we want to get burnt again.
That's right. And the bond is very specific. They pay these attorneys a lot of money to be very specific. Kim, I'm at a loss to know how to accommodate your concern here. I may just put it. Go ahead.
So it was not really to ask for an action item by this committee, Jack. It was really more for informational purposes, given the fact that we shared what bonds paid for in 4, 8, and 12. We did not see what they paid for in 16, and we don't see what they're going to pay for in 2020. And it's clear that most of the stuff that is on that list is not eligible for being enhanced by impact fees. And it's certainly not suggesting that the impact fees would help pay down any debt on any bonds. That's not the point. But it was just, it just jumped out at me, Jack, that it wasn't part of this packet, even though I was encouraged to see that the 4, 8, and 12 cycles did indeed put some of that bond money over to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I'm eager to, with another hat, I'm eager to see that could happen again, and believe that we as citizen community or committee might have potentially a voice in that publicly. Not as an action item.
Would it help if we asked the finance department to present details on some of the past bonds relating to affordable housing to the CIAC?
Well, if you could plug in 2016, that would help a lot.
Yeah. So, Carlos, just to be clear, there has never been a bond ever for affordable housing. It has been rolled into these capital bonds that get passed. So there has never been a specific bond for affordable housing, and I'm sure there never will be. But they have allocated some money out of the pie for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the past. That's right. Clear by what we've seen. And that is what I'm trying to verify that we did in 2016, or maybe not. And that if we didn't do it in 2016, to urge that it be brought back in on the 2020 cycle.
Carlos, can you dredge up that information from finance for 2016, and then we can have the 2020 discussion after 2016 is seen?
Yeah, and we don't need it today, Carlos, and I'm sorry to challenge you on that, but this is the first time I'd seen in the packet all of that information historically. And you know that I've been eager to pursue whether or not we could do that again, not we as the CIAC, but we as a city could do that again in this 2020 cycle.
I can ask about that, and I can try to see if we could get that by the next CIAC meeting. I will note that getting information from finance, sometimes I get it the next day, sometimes it takes multiple months. So I'll be able to
Sally,
I can confirm that.
Sally can get it. I bet Sally could get it.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
sure.
I don't have, Carlos at this point has a better rapport with our finance director on these issues than pretty much anyone at City Hall, absent maybe the governing body and perhaps the city manager. He's really got their ear. I don't have a better line at all.
Carlos, you have stroke. All right. All right. If you'll bring that to our attention next time, Carlos, that would be great. So we're going to move on. Kim, you had another question, I think.
No, that was it, Jack, and thank you for letting me take over there for a minute.
That's okay. We want to get everybody's questions answered. Other committee members, let me see if I've got, let's see, participants. Anybody with a hand raised? I don't see anybody. Does that mean you don't have any other questions? That must be what that means.
I don't know what you're looking at, but I'm still looking at a screen with charts on it.
I have I have the.
There you are.
Okay. So is anybody wants to speak, raise your hand.
So call the question, Jack.
All right, well, let me just hang on one more time. Carlos, Clancy, do either of you have anything to wrap up with, or have we heard everything we need to hear from you?
I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Clancy.
Yeah, I think just to kind of put it on the record a little bit, the IFCIP, of course, has not been proposed to the governing body yet. It has not been submitted for staff review yet. We don't have the formal resolution for it yet. And so right now, what we're kind of just asking is for permission from the CIAC to start that process. So I do kind of want to clarify where we're at with that. And then again, I also want to note that after we start presenting to the Planning Commission, the governing body will come back to the CIAC about any recommended changes and try to get a final recommendation from the CIAC in mid-November.
All right, so to clarify, what was your recommendation, Carlos, for the simple sentence for this language? For the
My
motion?
recommendation was, let me bring up the agenda. I still have that open.
You said you want to go forward with the process. Do we need to be that specific, or just?
I think recommending recommending consideration of a resolution, of a proposed resolution to pass the IFCIP.
Kim, do you adopt that?
That was the motion I made, yes.
Marshall? You got to unmute to say yes.
I read his lips.
I did
Yes.
too.
Second. Sorry about that.
All right, Elizabeth, will you poll the committee, please?
Yes, sir. Brian Lewis,
Yes.
Ike Pino,
Yes, but I want to add one statement. I continue to be against any money being allocated for more parks in the city of Santa Fe. And you guys heard my dissertation the other night, so we don't need to put that on the record. But
Okay.
I'll vote yes with the.
Thank you, Ike.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Pino does not want that statement as an explanation for his vote in the minutes.
Do you want it in the minutes? It won't go in the report.
Well, it doesn't have to go in the minutes. I just want
All right.
to.
Okay.
That's
Okay, Kim Shanahan,
I agree with Ike, but I'm also voting yes.
Marshall Thompson,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. What's next on the, by the way, thank you, Clancy and Carlos, for all your work. We all know that there's a lot that goes into this. We're grateful. Thank you so very much. All right, Elizabeth, what's next?
B is consideration of a proposed ordinance regarding impact fees, amending subsection 14-8.14 SFCC 1987 to adopt a new impact fee schedule and to clarify appropriate land use categories as they relate to impact fee collection.
All right, the chair recognizes Dr. Jamora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. So the next item, so of course the IFCIP establishes the maximum allowable calculations, the maximum allowable impact fees that we could charge. This next portion is a bill that we are proposing, an ordinance changing chapter 18-14-8.14. And that's the impact fees chapter. And so that's what's actually establishing the fees in chapter 14. I emailed a memo to the CIAC about the proposed fee assessments. And I also have a bill that I could share. Let me start that. And so kind of same deal as last time. We are looking for a positive recommendation to start moving forward with this ordinance and take it through the same process as the resolution. The proposed impact fee assessments are the ones, I believe I sent this out yesterday, and I could take any questions on this. Again, I think what's kind of important to think about this is that right now our fees are around 88% short of the cost to provide infrastructure. The sponsor, Mayor Alan Weber, and the Land Use Department are recommending that we approximately stick to 2014 fees. This proposal, as drafted, would increase revenues by around 3%. So we're sticking somewhat close to impact fee revenues. Of course, there are residential fees, which are increasing 17, 9, 10, 36, and 1%, but we can't really get into specifically working on different land use types. And we think that this proposal approximately brings out decent revenues for the department while also making a very small change in 2014 revenue. And I can talk more about what this might mean strategically or in a long-term perspective, or I can just open it up to any other questions.
Well, let's see if we have any questions. Committee members, any questions? Let me see if I can raise you on participants.
Mr. Chair, this is Kim. I would recommend, I would seek a vote to recommend approval and seek a second so we can discuss.
Second.
Second.
Was that Marshall?
First was Marshall, yes.
Okay, we're on the floor now for discussion on the motion. Go ahead. Kim?
I motion to approve.
No. Don't you have any questions? You don't have
Not really.
to. Oh, okay.
Not really. I think that this is a conservative estimation, and I appreciate that. I do believe that we are going to permit more units than our land use assumptions suggest, and therefore we will raise more money.
That sounds like a good thing.
It is a good thing. I also hope we build a hell of a lot more affordable housing than what Carlos is guesstimating. That's pathetic.
I can agree, Carlos. I hope so too. And I know Carlos hopes so too.
He does. I know he does.
Yeah.
He's
All
not
right.
pathetic. The estimation is pathetic.
All right. So I'm looking and I see no hands raised. This is the last opportunity to discuss. All right. Elizabeth will proceed to a motion, to counting the ballots. Thank you. Roll call. Phew.
Brian Lewis,
Yes.
Ike Pino,
Yes.
Kim Shanahan,
Yes.
Marshall Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Elizabeth.
Next is item C, request to establish the 2021 CIAC quarterly meeting schedule.
Mr. Jamora.
Yeah, thank you very much. I put in the packets a proposed meeting agenda. I'm told that the CIAC doesn't actually have to weigh in on this, but I figured I'd just throw it up anyways. This is
Carlos,
let me
just jump in there. Jump in there, Chair and members. If we don't have to act on this item, we can actually postpone this to the next meeting if you'd like, and we can have a meeting before the end of the year. We just were trying to kind of rush this out. We'll probably have this agenda drafted within the next month or two. We've been told by the clerk's office they need a listing of all the meetings, so we did kind of rush it. We're happy to postpone it till the next meeting that we call for, and before the schedule is published, if that's okay with everybody.
When do you anticipate the next meeting, Carlos?
We have to schedule a meeting in mid-November. Let me bring up that calendar. I believe it's the 14th or 15th, somewhere around there of November.
Well, maybe we should just do it right now. I don't know that it needs to be put off.
Are we trying to set a regular schedule meeting or something? Because you've never had a regular schedule meeting.
It looks like the CIAC used to establish quarterly meetings, and that those were supposed to be published well in advance. Usually when Reed would do that, he would come to the CIAC and either present that or request approval of that. Again, I'm not sure that we actually need a formal approval for those. And then we also add on independent meetings as needed. It's usually what we've done.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Mr. Chairman, the other committees are voting and approving the schedules for the clerk's office. And then they can be changed if necessary, but there is a vote taken.
All right.
I move to approve the meeting schedule for 2021.
Second.
Who was the second? Marshall?
Marshall.
Okay, good. Kim, Marshall.
Thank you.
Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Brian Lewis.
Yes.
Ike Pino.
No.
Okay.
What?
Kim Shanahan.
Yes.
Marshall Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's interesting. The most controversial thing on the agenda is next year's meeting dates. Okay.
Well, you wait till you go try to set a meeting up with the clerk's office.
I know. I understand.
First of all, secondly, we need to acknowledge that we meet when we need to, not when we just hang around to shoot the breeze. And third of all, today I was attending my bank college class, and we were all encouraged to dissent every now and then. So there's no dissension.
Well done, Ike. Well done.
All right. Good job, Ike.
If Ike likes that meetings list, he'll probably love the planning commission list.
Yeah, you really. So Elizabeth, what's next?
Staff communications.
You have any staff communication, Carlos, Noah?
I suppose so. So I'm going to try to take IFCIP, the bill and the resolution through some of these different processes. We've got governing body next week, planning commission the week after that, governing body and public works and utilities the week after that. Hoping to make a bunch of changes and then get that back into your hands sometime the 17th, 18th, or maybe 19th. I'm wondering if board members, if committee members could contact me and let me know what kind of dates might work for them. I'll send this out, of course, and we can try to find a good meeting time for that. But again, we do want to make sure that we get quorum for that meeting so that we could move forward like we have today.
Okay. Sally, are you still with us? Yes, you are.
I'm here.
Do you have any issues, or can you think of any issues why I shouldn't vote on this at the planning commission in addition to voting on it here? I mean, I didn't vote on it and I wouldn't at the planning commission unless there was a tie. But do you see any conflict with me being the chair of both these committees?
All right, I don't see any problem with that.
Okay,
I can think on it a little more. Of course, as you know, there's sort of that general rule that the chair generally wouldn't vote anyway, except to break a tie.
right.
So that I think maybe leaves you out anyway, but
Yeah, I hope so. Well, okay. All right.
Chair,
hopefully
I-
it's not tied.
Yeah. Noah?
Chair, thank you. I'd also chime in that there may be another planning commissioner who potentially would be joining this as well. So I don't think there will be a conflict of interest. If anything, I think it's actually not a bad thing to have planning commissioners on this board as well as other community members.
Okay, I'll just let you know, no, I've talked to that commissioner and encouraged her that she'd be a great member, and I want you to go forward with that if you can.
Okay.
All right, good.
Yeah.
All right,
So Chair Hyde, I
yes.
believe that you should also accompany Carlos at all those other meetings that he has to attend prior to that.
yeah, you, what are you smoking? It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
You
All
know,
right.
Jack, you have more power, Jack, if you're a member.
Yeah.
All you are now right now is just staging a meeting.
Gee. Yeah, I got plenty of time for this. Okay. Let's see, Elizabeth, what's next?
Matters from the floor.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask matters from the floor. Are there any members of the public that are participating in this? I don't see any. And are there any comments from the commissioners? I mean, from the members of the committee?
So I would just, I think I heard that we may be getting a new member and we'll still be too short from our capacity. So to the extent that any of us can convince the counselors who don't have appointees to get them appointed would be good. And I also want to know whether or not we all have been reappointed by the counselors who we represent. I've never really heard one way or another whether or not we've been reappointed.
That's not
Chair.
my dog, by the way. Go
Chair,
ahead.
That's mine.
we are
Noah?
working. Thank you, Chair. We are working on that. Member Shanahan, we are working diligently to advertise multiple positions for multiple boards and committees. What's unique about this is these are appointed positions on this. So counselors have to appoint. So Director Isaacson has been working with the mayor with counselors to get some appointments. So we hope to fill all the empty spots.
Okay,
within
I
a
see
couple
that
months.
Eli is on the call. Eli, can you weigh in at all and give us some input? Eli may have jumped off.
Well, the worst person is the mayor himself. He has an appointee and he is not, he's 2 years late almost in reappointing someone.
Yeah, he must have other things on his mind. I don't know what it is, but. Okay, let's see, Elizabeth, what's next, please?
Adjourn.
All right, Clancy, once again, thanks so very much. Are you going to be involved in any of these hearings coming down the pike? You're muted.
Yes, I will be.
Oh, okay, good. Well, good luck. And I'm sure our recommendations will be taken in toto and nobody's going to disagree with anything we say. So, and we'll look forward to see if that's true. Okay, good enough. Thank you, everybody. Without any further business, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.